Hello my friends, Paul here in the RoJoBe Music Workshop, and welcome to part 3 of the Luthier tutorial video on making a new nut for your instrument. I really didn't want these tutorials to run into 3 videos. 2 maximum, should really be 1, but as regular viewers of mine know, I don't edit, I record the work I'm doing, I watch a video back and I upload it. I don't do any editing or fluffing it up or making it look pretty or anything like that, because if I make mistakes, you need to see it, and what you see is what you get. So I will try to make some of the other tutorial videos just one video if I can, but these jobs, making a nut, it's not a 5-minute job. It does take some time. So it's worth knowing how to do each process properly, and if it goes into 3 videos, it goes into 3 videos. I'd rather it didn't, but there it is. And if we weren't limited to for time on these cameras, then okay, it would have been sort of a little over an hour, perhaps, maybe a little bit more, hour and a half even, but better that than 3 separate videos really. But there it is. Anyway, so making this nut, I've continued with the work off camera, and I mean, it's tiny, and really not sure you're going to be able to see this, but the slots are all in there. I've got it down to the right height, and I've got the curve around the top and front edge. So I've got all these slots now down to the correct depth, and I've got the whole thing to the right height and everything else. I've also got the string slots to the right gauge. Now I will show you how I did that once I've attached this, because again, it's a long time consuming fiddly job, and I just wanted to crack on with it. And I'll be honest, I did, so this end is the bass strings, and I chipped it out twice. But because because I chipped it on the top, which was good, because it meant taking the height down, pretty much those chips are gone, so I got away with it. But it is really difficult not to chip these out, especially with these double coarse stringed instruments. I mean, the strings 2.5 millimeters apart. I mean, if you're making a guitar nut, the string spacing is probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 mil, I guess, between the strings, and only 1 slot per string. So less chance of it chipping, but it will still chip, so be careful. But I got away with this because it chipped twice, but right on the top, and because I took the height down probably a couple of millimeters or more, I got rid of those chips. So that turned out well. Right, so I'm now going to attach the nut to the instrument, and then I will show you what I did about gauging or cutting the slots to the right gauge. So let me just zoom in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to use a little super glue, and rather than making a big old mess on here, I'm just going to put a little drop of it on this piece of paper. That's it, that's all I need. And I've got a toothpick here, and I'm going to use that just to dip in the glue and smear a little bit on the bottom and front face of this nut. You really don't need a lot, just a couple of drops, literally, and try not to get it all over your fingers. Yeah, you don't need a lot, because you need it to be easily removable if necessary. So you just literally need a little drop of glue, smear it on. Right, so crucial part, just getting it in place and making sure it's lined up before that glue sets. It's looking pretty good. There we go. It's got it. Right, Right, so that's pretty much lined up both sides. Needs to be pressed in a bit down there at the bottom. Moved a bit. That's not good. Okay. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm just holding it in place while that glue sets. It should only take a few seconds. Making sure that it's not, we haven't got too much overhang each end. And looks pretty good. Just make sure that's seated properly. Seems to be going a bit skew with that. We're good now. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Right. I am probably going to need to just tidy up the edges a bit, just file those off just a little bit. You know, like I said, I went oversized at first, and then sneaking up on it. It's looking pretty good. Just make sure that's pressed all the way down. That's the most important part with this, well, with all of them really, but when you've got a 0 fret, needing to make sure those slots are below the 0 fret, and they are. Good. Okay. Right, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'll just give that a minute or so to make sure that's set properly. Make sure it's straight as well and seated properly. Yeah, it's looking good. Yeah, I will need to just kind of just file a little bit off of each end just to tidy that up, but that's not that important right now. Okay, I didn't make a mess there, that's awesome. Okay, so as for the gauge of the slot, because obviously you've got different size strings, different gauge strings, 4 different gauges on this instrument, so 2 of each gauge, and I have these brand name Hosco nut slot files, set of 10. They're made in Japan, but I actually bought these from a company in the UK. As I said, set of 10, and they go from 10 gauge up to 56, I think it is, which is, you know, good for all standard guitars, but you know, you can use it for ukuleles and mandolins and various other instruments. Now, if you're going to do jobs like this, you need a set of these. All right, you can get cheap ones. Don't get these or something like it. Now, these are not cheap. This set cost me well over £100. Okay, you might think, what? But trust me, I did buy the cheap ones before I got these, and they're absolutely useless for doing this job properly and accurately. If you're going to this anything approaching a professional level, you've got to get these good ones. I would say this is the brand I use, Hosco. I rate them. I'm not in any way affiliated with this company. They don't sponsor me or anything like that. But I highly rate these. StewMac do a set as well. StewMac from the US. I think they're quite a lot more expensive. And there are probably other brands on the market as well, but this is the one that I recommend. I'm pretty happy with these, and they just look like small files. I mean, they don't have handles on them because they get in the way. And as I said, this set ranges from 10 thou up to 56, and you know, a few in between. So I've got the 4 sizes I need here. For these particular string slots. So, starting with the bass side, it's obviously the thickest string. Now I've got a 46 gauge there. These strings are about 40 to 41 gauge. You always want to go a little bit over, not too much. I mean, I think these strings, I said they're 41, I think, and I've got a 46, so that's 5/1000ths of an inch bigger than the string. That is, what is that? 1/8 of a millimeter. So it's nothing. Now, when you're cutting the slots in the nut, obviously again being very careful. I mean, these are already cut. You know, you'll mark them out and then you'll start to cut them, and the file needs to point kind of downwards towards the headstock, because this back edge towards the fretboard, the very edge of that should be the last place the string makes contact, because your intonation is measured from the inside of the nut, so the fretboard side of the nut, that edge, to the 12th fret, and then the 12th fret to your bridge or saddle, bridge and saddle. So you want to, when you file these slots, you want to angle the file downwards towards the headstock, so that this point at this back edge is the highest point. Okay, and in some cases you might have to slightly angle the file so that it points towards the tuning post, or the inside of the tuning post. Because everything's so tiny on here, it's not necessary, so I was able to do them straight. But sometimes you might have to just angle the file so that it comes in line with the inside of your tuning post on all of them. So that next one will be there and the next one there. So sometimes they might be, you know, slightly angled, but it's this back edge where the accuracy needs to be. Okay, so you know, you basically pivot it from that back edge inwards or outwards, wherever it needs it. And you know, depth is very important, particularly without a 0 fret. This one has one. So let me just check one more time that those slots are below the 0 fret, and it looks as though, wait a minute, the treble strings, they're going to need to go down a bit. So I'll get my smallest one first of all, start with this end. So I'm just very carefully going into the slot, and yeah, I need to wax that up, so I don't want that cracking again. So just a little bit of paraffin wax on the edge of the file will help that glide through the slot nice and easy. There we go. So yeah, that glue hadn't set. Okay, let me just put a drop more on there, reset it. So like I said, with my videos, you get what you see and you see what you get. Perhaps just a little drop more glue this time, just to make sure that stays on there, because that's not much good, is it? But yeah, as I said, you don't want to use much glue, because if you ever need to take the nut off, as you saw when I took the one off of this, just a little tap and it should come away. You don't want it, you know, stuck fast on there. Okay, let me try that again. Okay. Pretty good. Just check for the overhang. I mean, there is a tiny bit of overhang, and so long as it's even, the same both sides, we're good to go. Right. Hopefully that will set hard this time. So let me just check that again. Actually, it's looking like I don't need to do that now. That's strange. Maybe it wasn't quite set the first time, seated properly. That would make sense. Let me just check that again. I think it might be alright. Well, that's good. Okay, but you know, as I said, when you're filing, you need to angle the file downwards towards the headstock, because it needs the highest point needs to be at this back edge. Let me just check that again. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. Right, so I'm gonna carefully put all the strings back in the slots. So I've got this off. Okay. God, time does go fast. Right, let's just take that piece of string out. Okay. So I carefully put all the strings back in the slots because I'm not sure if that glue is set yet. And before I tighten the strings, I should already be able to see what the spacing is like between the strings. What's happening there? Is that the one? No, that's the wrong one. There we go. The strings have got a bit twisted up. There we go. Okay. Oops. Come on. I've got time for this. Okay, now bear in mind, I don't have the bridge on yet, which will also help to space. Actually, let me just put that back on quickly, so I can get all the springs or even strings properly spaced on the nut and the bridge / saddle. Just put all those back in. Have I got that the right way around? I have. That's good. What's happened there? Those two are swapped over. Right, how's that for alignment? 1 second. Yeah, it's close enough for now. So, there we go. So now, if we look at the string spacing, hold on, let me just do something different with that camera. Wrong way. Okay, so remembering what this looked like before with all the strings the same space apart, now, much better. Okay, so we've got the bass strings here, 2.5mm apart, and then a 4mm gap there for the next pair. Okay, that looks much better. That's how it should look. Okay. So I may as well start to tighten up the strings. Let's see, let's grab my phone, get the tuning app, get that super glue out of the way. So I'm not going to tune this up to full pitch right now because it takes ages on these mandolins. But I'm just going to start to tighten the strings a bit, just to check that alignment's all good. In fact, I'm not even going to bother with the tuner right now. I'm just going to get them up to a little bit of tension. Okay. What's happened to that one there? Actually, I don't want to tighten the strings too much right now. I'm not sure that glue is set. Got a stiff tuner there. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. Now I just want to make sure that we're on that 0 fret on all the strings. Again, you're not going to see what I'm doing. Hold on, let's tighten that up a bit. Looks as though there may be 1 or 2 that are still a little bit high. They need to be resting on that 0 fret. So, yeah. So the 7th string isn't, or the 6th, or the 5th. Yeah, there are a couple of strings that are still not quite touching that 0 fret. So I'm going to have to take the files and just lower those slots a bit more, which I will do off camera. So this job is done. Making a brand new nut for this mandolin. It's finished, but I've just got to do a little bit of tweaking, just lower those slots on some of the strings just to get them to seat properly, and that's job done. Okay, so that's the end of this little project and Luthier tutorial on making a new nut for your instrument, in this case a mandolin. So yeah, it's done. Like I said, I've just got to do a little bit of tweaking just to get all the strings to seat down properly, which I'm going to do off camera. It'll take a little bit of time, and that's it. Job done. So making a new nut for your instrument. Open brackets, mandolin, close brackets. But like I said, the principle and the way you do this job is the same for any nut, for any stringed instrument. The only differences are the dimensions and the spacing and the number of strings, etc., etc. But the way you do the job is exactly the same. So you've seen how I do it, and as I said, if you're making a nut, make it out of bone. I strongly recommend that. You can make it out of plastic or other materials, but bone is the way to go, honestly. Okay, so end of this tutorial, and as I said, the next tutorial will also be on a mandolin, and it is more specific to a mandolin. So that will be coming soon. In the meantime, please look after yourselves, look after each other. We will see you soon. Peace out.